So originally, I did not actually want to talk about this game. So you might as well just leave the video right now, am I right? No, yeah, originally I was not really interested about this game. And yeah, you know, man, I always notice something really weird and really strange that goes on. You know, Mixtape came out, and it's like, you really gotta ask, oh yeah, this is the little girl character here, by the way. Yeah, the whole thing about her and all the controversies surrounding her, it's so pathetic. But you know, you have these games that come out and there's no conversation around them, and then you have other games that come out and there's all a conversation for some reason around them. Nothing is going on in our freaking country, in our freaking culture, and all these first world nations, and all the trash that's coming out. I mean, dear God, dude, Expedition 33, not a great game, and no one cared. No one cared about it. But we have to act like it's Game of the Year because, well, gaming is dead, and also first world cultures are dead. And all the media associating it is dead. The spirit of these nations are dead. So everything that comes out is just dog trash, and no one cares. And so now we're just clamoring, you know, at the end of a freaking straw for the most compelling and interesting cultural dialogues that we can chase after for because we're bored. That's all this is. So you have all these Karens, these ugly women that nobody wants to bang. I mean, with consent, without consent. You know, you're a feminist and everything's about consent for you. Well, too bad. Nobody wants to have anything to do with you. So you don't have to worry about consent, babe. Karen, washed up babe. Obese, overweight, nose ring. What was the one thing I said? Once upon a time. Yes, we're not gonna get into that. Anyways. But yeah, nose ring, gaping, babe, liberal, overweight, disgusting, filth, feminist, babe. They're so bored with themselves, and they're so bored with their lousy existences and all the media, the trash media that we keep coming out with, that they have to get upset about a cute little blonde girl who, I guess, right, a part of a woman's sexuality and her desirability is what? It's her long hair. And feminists love to cut their hair short because it is a measure of desexualizing themselves against men. And of course, ugly women who don't have a chance in hell, with or without consent, getting with a man, they're the ones who love to cut their hair the shortest and the most. So when they see a little girl in a video game that has long flowing hair like this, which is an absolute indicator of fertility and attractiveness in developed attractive women, these Karens who nobody wants to touch, they don't want to touch themselves. So that's some reasons why they're probably really pissed off too. They look at this little girl and they're seething and they're raging, they're really angry, they're like, oh my gosh, how dare this little girl look more attractive than me. And of course, that's not what it's about, but that's what they made it about, right? So you see these women, they're all like seething, like, oh my gosh, she's super sexualized. Oh my gosh, this little girl. And it's just like, dude, you Karens are ugly. We get it, dog. Oh my gosh, you're projecting how ugly you are onto a cute little girl in a video game, bro. This is pathetic. This is pathetic. And this is what I'm talking about with this video. It's like, this game was not a conversation. This game was not that cool. Wasn't that interesting. The gameplay was like, okay, they're trying new things. But it's like, this is just more nihilistic, existentialist, modern day trash media that is not driving the needle. And no one cares. No one's interested. This is yet another game that is just bad. And that's it. You know, okay. Let me be charitable slightly for once. It's uninspiring. How many films, how many games used to come out and they actually drove the needle? People remembered these stories. They remembered the performances by the actors. You know, I think of like Gladiator. What a great performance by so many actors, especially Joaquin Phoenix. Remember that? Remember when great films? Remember Troy? Remember just all kinds of films? We can go down a long list. A lot of great movies. A lot of hot women in those movies too. Hey, remember Jessica Alba? She had long hair. Well, what's up? Call me. It's just like, we don't get any of that stuff anymore. Everything that comes out is just, everything feels soulless now. There was a time where everything felt like it had soul and it had meaning. We're not there anymore. So, you know, all these games come out, and I'm honest to God about this, bro. These are some of the most doctored controversies that you could imagine. Now, I do believe that a lot of them are real, right? I think that people are like, no, I think what happened with Mixtape was really fake. I think that an Omega billionaire's daughter has no talent, sucks at her job, she's an insufferable feminist, and she made the game Mixtape. And so everyone's talking about it because there's nothing to talk about, right? No good games are being made nowadays, so all we can do is just make fun of the dog trash that is coming out, right? What a great expression of our culture today. But, you know, with this game, it was so forced. And I was hearing about a bunch of people picking up this game, being like, oh, wowzers, everyone's talking about this game. You know, these people who pretend to be gamers, but they're not actually gamers. You know, actual gamers, they'll pick up a game regardless of how many people are really saying it's truly interesting or not, because gamers know, they have an eye for, oh, that looks good, oh, that looks interesting. Gamers are men, by the way, not women. Women are LARPers. You know, you have these men that are, remember Scalebound? Remember how that game never came out? Oh man, if Scalebound came out, that would have been so cool. There's a bunch of games that were once announced that never came out, and they were going to be really cool. But gamers know what's cool, they know what's good, or they have a dream of how a game could be good. Like, remember Outriders? Remember that game? I bought it. What a freaking disappointment. But there's a bunch of games that we remember that's like, oh, well, it could have been well made, it could have been good, and they failed. Especially back then, a lot of games were failing in their deliveries, but this is a great example of a game that, like, a bunch of fake gamers picked it up because there was this political conversation surrounding it by a bunch of ugly Karens that can't get a man to take them by force if they tried. So these women are all seething that a cute little girl who's white, there's a big issue that she's white, that she's blonde, that she has all the features of some of the more attractive women on the freaking planet. I'm sorry, some of the most attractive women are blue eyes, blonde hair, long blue blonde hair, and they're white. And these women who are seething, they're like, oh my gosh, she's white. Some of these self-hating white women who are just insufferable feminist C-words. And also, you have in the mix a bunch of other insufferable leftists, and also then you have all the colored people and women who are seething that this is a white little girl. And then and I don't want to go further with this because I'm about to get into a racial tirade. I'm not going to get into this. Let's just say has to do with I don't even want to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about, you know what, I dislike what the freaking thing that pisses me off. All right, let's just say I don't even want to say it. It pisses me off. It gives me the freaking the great leader's Führer, the great Führer's fury. I feel it. I feel it right now. Just thinking about. We're not going to talk about it. Okay, you can maybe think about, though, certain demographics, right? I'm just not going to talk about it. It's just going to get me pissed off, and we don't need that right now. So we're going to skip that. We're going to skip that racial tirade that I can go into. You have no idea the kind of anger and seething that I could dispense right now on what I am completely avoiding. But just, you know, okay, let's say it like this. Black fatigue. Black fatigue plus white women. Let's just put it like that. I think, is that enough? Is that enough? Yeah, there's a lot of that. So anyway, right. So we have this completely doctored conversation surrounding, and by the way, the interactions between this guy, right? This guy's supposed to be like, falling into a fatherly figure kind of role with this little girl. And there's some really touching and cute moments with this Diana is her name in this game. It's kind of silly, and she's a little bit too bubbly in her personality. I mean, that's little girls, and that's young women. Yeah, they're bubbly, and the most feminine women, who happen to be attractive, by the way, they're very bubbly and full of energy. So it's okay. It's amicable. Men like that out of women. They like it out of their daughters. They like it out of their wives, their girlfriends, the hoe that they're banging, whatever. Men like bubbly personalities. Feminine. Being feminine is being bubbly and joyous, like Diana is in this game. So, you know, it is something that is like really just, I think, heartwarming in this game, seeing how Diana is always just being really cutesy, and she's being really innocent, and yeah, she's an android, whatever, but she's mimicking and mirroring a little girl's behavior and energy and innocence towards the world and her purity. So it's like, you know, it's really cute when it happens. And there's moments where like I low-key feel the kind of urge to like cry. you know, like you feel that psychologically. You're like, oh man, this is like a really touching moment where she's just having this really innocent interaction with the main character. So you can really appreciate that, how they try to deliver this really down-to-earth relation between the little girl and this main character guy who's really average. His character is super generic, but whatever. You know, she acts like a little girl. She acts like a really fun, playful, cutesy little girl. And, you know, especially for a lot of men that know what it's like to, for instance, you know, men who have young daughters and before they turn into raging whores who bang every race of man on the planet and then expect a freaking white guy, or I mean, yeah, this is a huge issue for the first world nations right now. But anyways, they expect some white guy to freaking sign up for a freaking former multiracial whore. Like, okay, awesome. Right? Yeah. You go from being a father of this like little cute thing that's playful, and you're like, oh, she's gonna grow up to be a great mother and wife to a man, and then she turns into a multiracial whore. Wow, that's just great. But anyway, you know, again, I could go on a very long racial tirade about this, but it's just not worth it to me. So anyways, a lot of guys though who have had daughters, or they've had close familial interactions with young little girls, right? You knew them when they were infant or toddler. You kind of know what this relationship looks like, or what it feels like, and how heartwarming it is, and that it can be, right? And of course you can have something similar with boys, but anyways, you understand and you can feel what it's like though to just have this really cute, endearing relationship. Now, it's interesting because I think there's also a hormonal level that plays into it, because obviously there's serotonin that's involved with young kids and infants, or babies, generally speaking. There's a serotonin release that's involved. You're not going to get that with a video game, but regardless, right, that's what this is mimicking and mirroring. So if you as a man have had experience with a developing young child, and let's say a developing young girl, and you have that playful relationship that's really innocent and endearing and white, then, you know, you'll sit there, and I think this game will hit you on a different level just on that alone, because it's nostalgia, and it's not even so much this game, even though this game maybe does decent delivery here and there. it's going to be most and foremost for some guys, it's going to be nostalgia that really hits them hard, especially if their daughters grew up and turned into multiracial whores who got tattoos and nose rings and butt plugs, and now they're just slinging that freaking punani everywhere, and you're crying as you're playing this game, remembering, oh wow, she used to be that little girl that was really innocent, and now she was infected with liberalism and feminism. And now she's a disgusting whore who's going to die of sepsis. So, you know, that's also really sad, and that's another reason to cry as a man when you're playing this game. But outside of that, right, outside of the depression of the modern age and what women have become and what they make of themselves, you have, for a lot of men, you just have the really endearing relationship between this main character and this little girl. And it is convincing, right? And it's compelling for the moments that it's there. The story's not good in this game. It's really lame. Nobody can make a good story nowadays. But the interactions between this little girl and Hugh, I believe, is the main character. It's believable. It's sold well. And yeah, I mean, it's going to get to you on some level. There's moments where it was low-key starting to get to me, and maybe the ending of the game is even more sad, and maybe you will bawl out your eyes and cry a lot as you remember that your daughter who grew up is a raging whore. So it must feel good to be a girl dad nowadays, huh? It must feel great. So anyways, man, so it's just like, right, I think it's one of the, and like the main reason for me really making this video, I don't care about the game. I'm not really going to talk about the game much. I mean, I already spoke about it, but it's the whole conversation surrounding this game, right? It's these seething Karens who fixate on all of these just desirable qualities and features and traits on a woman. I mean, like, right, men find white women who are blonde with long blonde hair, blue eyes, they find them attractive. And so you have these Karens who are seething about it, and they're projecting it onto a little girl, right? A little girl character. And it's one of the most forced conversations where these women are just telling on themselves that they just envy any living female, you know, super young or of age, right? Developed, adults and all that. It doesn't matter. Like, these women, they're just seething, raging, angry, insufferable, feminist C-words. And when they see any woman, especially a little girl, that has more desirable traits and features than that woman who's obese and liberal has or is, and the little girl is more feminine than that woman is, she starts projecting onto the little girl everything that that woman from her youth she never became into, right? Or she never fulfilled a genetic or biological, some kind of biological or genetic, I don't want to call it destiny, but maybe resolution is the word, but these women never fulfilled the end development that I guess they project on to this female character, that she has a development that these women will never have. Seems to be something of that like. It definitely is that way for some of these women. And then, you know, you have a lot of these other women, they're just seething that she's white because they've internalized self-hatred for being white. You know, because modernity is just so awesome and great. You gotta love all the psyops that have worked by now in modern age. History, civilization, it's so pathetic what we're seeing out of liberals. It's just amazing too, because like, in the end, this little girl just has, I mean, she's not hideous and ugly either as a little girl. So it's like, it's also wrong apparently. Like apparently children, this is something that I've raged about in previous games, in previous media that's ever come out, is that liberals love ugly people. And I've noticed that they also like to gravitate towards like ugly children. And it's like, I'm sorry, but why do people, and especially including children, why does everyone have to look ugly? I hate this psyop that people just cannot be nice to look at, right? That like a baby has to be ugly. A baby can't just, I don't know, be a good looking baby. Like a part of being a cute baby is that you have good features and traits. Like we need this psyop where everyone's ugly, your children are ugly, other people's children are ugly. When everyone grows up, they're still ugly. Like no one can just ever be good looking. We have to, you know, there was a time where people were just good looking, and we used to celebrate good looking kids, good looking people, good looking men, good looking women. I mean, we used to just celebrate good looking people, and America used to have, on greater average, good looking people. Nowadays, everyone's dysgenic, everyone wants to be overweight, people want to ruin their bodies with tattoos, especially modern women who are multiracial whores, liberal feminist whores. You know, it's like these people are just like they're so possessed by the unbecoming of themselves and the terrible nowadays genetic passing down of these faulty lineages of dysgenic people passing down the worst traits in human beings that are not attractive. So now we see a little girl in a video game and we force this cultural conversation that doesn't need to happen. No one cared about this game. There's so many games nobody cares about. This game is in that same camp of just like, oh, another game came out, who cares? But you know, because people have like, because civilization's degenerating so much and people have degenerated so much, you have these Karens who are seething that a little child in a game is more attractive than they are. And they have bought hook, line, and sinker into this narrative, into this belief that it's just normal for people to be ugly now. For children to be ugly, for men to be ugly, even though feminists, they actually hate that men are in any way not absolute giga-chads, so that's the exception for these ugly feminists that nobody would want to even forcibly copulate with. And of course these women are seething that like any other woman besides themselves would be even close to attractive. I mean, like, it's amazing to me how much people just want other people to be hideous nowadays. It's absolutely amazing to me. And so that's really what this is about. This game and these characters, and especially this little girl that the feminists are seething about. And we created this whole needless conversation around like, oh, all men are predators, and they're like trying to hunt down young attractive girls, and it's just like, shut the F up. You know, and isn't it funny that there's a bunch of women out there, bunch of female teachers who are all raging pedos, hunting down young men, young boys. And of course, you know, every young guy wanted to bang their hot teacher, me included. What's up? You know, during that time frame of things, right? But no, I mean, it's still, it's like, it is disgusting that you see these people, they try to get so upset about men and treat men and look at men like they're all a bunch of predators, and we always try to make this conversation where it's like men are all terrible and they're all predators and we need to hunt down every man. And then meanwhile, you have women who are actually predators. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So, you know, it's like, it just shows that this is not even a problem. People don't actually care. They care about what feels right. They care about what is perceived to be right, but they don't care what's correct. And they don't care about what actually matters. And they don't care about, I don't know, living through their life and speaking to people on a legitimate notion or basis. They would rather just LARP around and pretend that they actually care about anything, but they don't actually know the first two reasons why they think or believe anything that they think or believe, or anything that they're saying. And of course, this is a big issue with leftists. They don't know why they actually think or believe anything that they believe. And if you try to challenge them and they seem to know what they're believing in or thinking about, then they just pretend like the conversation doesn't exist or they don't know what you're talking about. You can't actually have a fruitful, productive conversation that is rhetorical and deductive in reasoning with a leftist. So you're never going to get anywhere with these people because they don't have real ideas. If it came down to a leftist, how to generate civilization with their ideas, you will tear apart and destroy civilization. There's a reason why every civilization was built by what? Conservatives, not liberals. It's always come down to, in every empire throughout history, it's always liberals. When they collect too much in mass in the population, social sentiment, or just in the bureaucracy, they tear apart and destroy civilization every single time. So it's nothing new in history. They are the political side of decay, and there's no other way around it. So you look at this whole conversation surrounding this game, and I just couldn't help but look at it, and I'm like, okay, no one cares about this game. A bunch of fake gamers are picking up this game because a fake conversation is being sprouted up about it, a fake hysteria, a fake controversy. Who really cares about this little girl character? Really? Really? It's just a cute little girl, and we're seething and we're raging, and these women are telling on themselves how freaking ugly and hideous they are, and that they ego adapted and identify with being ugly. Then a bunch of people, specifically these women, but also, I don't know, and then people who are confused on like, whose side are you on? They don't know. But then you have all these people, they want to like go out against male sexuality and the fact that men like young, fertile, attractive women. And so then they say that because men like banging young, attractive, fertile women, they're like, oh, well, that's obviously and automatically this little girl. So you have this retarded conversation that just goes in circles where it's just, men are just not allowed to be men. They're always villains no matter what. You know, if women are actual predators, who cares? Oh, haha, it's a joke, or just ignore it. But, yeah, I mean, dudes just like young, virginic women. And, that's, we know what that looks like all throughout history. And, in this game, there's no young, virginic women in this game. And, I don't know, I feel like I'm like, the technicals of this conversation, it's not really interested in going through the technicals. I feel like it's common sense, you know? So it's like, do we really have to explain this stuff? But yeah, this is the issue with the feminists. Like, this is the issue with liberals. Common sense is just not common sense, right? If dudes want to bang 18-year-old chicks, I mean, for one, that's normal. And for two, yeah, I mean, that's just end of the conversation. It makes sense that men want to bang young women who are the most fertile and attractive. And especially, you want to get them at the most prime young age possible before they do anything to mess themselves up. So it makes sense, you know, all throughout history, men used to marry very early because the longer you allow a woman to be single, banging multiple dudes, they all just end up destroyed, ruined, debaucherous whores that are disgusting and no man wants to be with and stay around with. And then you start having plummeting birth rates and all that stuff. So you have that issue. So it you know, there's nothing wrong with men wanting young women. And these feminists, what they do is that they use this little girl as an excuse to say that men desiring women who are 18 years old, early 20s, whatever, totally normal. It's been all throughout history that men have desired this. They want to use this little girl as the excuse to vilify men and say that men should not want to be with young, virginic women. And you know, in this game, this guy is the father figure with this young girl. And I feel like it's really trite to state that. I mean, obviously, and I feel like everyone said that, but I'm just saying it just for the sake of it. This whole conversation, though, where it's like, it's really just these people, these leftists who are seething, they're forcing a conversation that isn't there. And that's the thing that I'm amazed with on this game, is that in the end, there's no conversation to be had about this game. Dude is a father figure to a young girl. They have some pretty touching moments. Young girl is an attractive little kid. There's nothing wrong with this, right? There's nothing wrong with being an attractive kid. Why should children be ugly? I don't get that. You know, like, by the way, you know, I said this in some of my previous earlier videos lately, that just ugly people are evil people, and hot people just try harder. All right? And that absolutely applies here. With this game, hot people just try harder. All right? And they're good. They're good people. They're angelic. So now we're also just trying to vilify attractive people, which means we're trying to vilify what's good and not evil. So we're trying to worship what's evil now through evil, ugly people. Vice versa. So I don't know, man. I see the whole conversation surrounding this game, and I'm just like, okay, this is so ridiculous. I don't know why people were talking about it. For as long as they were choosing to carry a whole cultural conversation around this game. But it's just, in the end, it's stuff like this. These feminist women, nobody wants them. So they have to resort to these desperate attempts to just vilify men, that men just want to get with the new 18-year-olds. And every time these feminist hoe bags that are completely undesirable, they see any young girl, they're like, oh, someday she's going to be 18. Oh, someday all the men that don't want to have anything to do with me, all the chads, everybody, they're not going to want to touch me. They're going to want to touch the new 18-year-old. Yeah, that's what it is. And I don't know, maybe when you were 18, you could have become a mother, and you could have had a young daughter, and you could have been with a guy, and he could have been the father to your daughter. But instead, you're a seething witch. And the second you see any young female, you know, all you can think about are all the younger women who outcompete you, because you didn't make the most of when you were desirable. And then you got tattoos, and you got fat, and you didn't take care of yourself. Because, right, there's hot, attractive women who are past their 20s, but those women take care of themselves, and they don't get tattoos. And there's just this disease amongst modern women where they have no accountability to themselves. They're not responsible for their own bodies. When they uglify themselves, when they destroy their skin complexion through makeup, when they get themselves obese and fat, when they get tattoos that look hideous. You know, women look hot when they got no tattoos on their body. Women having pure bodies that are unstained by ink and whatever else, or other races of men. Let's include that. Women look the most beautiful, the hottest, when their bodies are completely unstained. You know, when I see a chick and she's got nothing on her body that is, you know, no tattoos. I mean, it's just like, women are the most beautiful when they just keep it freaking clean on their body. But when women have to go out of their way and they have to putrefy their bodies, and they have to make it disgusting, and they have to put all this freaking noise, all this noise on their body, it's just so unattractive. And I don't see how any man could want to stick around with that. You know, when a hot chick is hot, she's hot, right? So you want to bang a chick that has nice breasts, nice long hair, vibrant hair, healthy hair, right? Something a lot of women used to have, but now they're very unhealthy. So it's a different story now with a lot of women. But, right, men like healthy, attractive, unstained women. It's just very simple. And nowadays you have all these women, they're just in no way, shape, or form are they responsible for themselves. And so they're like, oh, I'm gonna get fat. and I'm gonna get a bunch of tattoos, and I'm gonna do nothing to take care of myself, and I'm gonna be an insufferable leftist, and oh, that's not gonna make any difference upon how men receive me. And then when it does, then they seethe about younger girls who eventually, at some point someday, are going to outcompete them in attractiveness. Because yeah, you know, they're not soiled yet. If they're feminists like you, they're going to be soiled. They're going to be disgusting and ruinous. And the only thing that ever saves these women from ruining themselves is the fact that they're hot. But you always see with these women who are hot, eventually they sabotage themselves when they're all leftists. So, but you know, the women who, they keep it tight. What's up? Call me. But no, the women who they work out, they don't overeat, they take care of themselves, they don't get tattoos, they stay hot for a long time. They stay very attractive. I mean, geez Louise, like Karen McDougall is still pretty darn attractive, dude. Holy crap. And you have women like her who they just didn't do a whole bunch of stupid stuff to damage their face, damage their body, and so they're still attractive. And that's really what the conversation from this game is about. It's all these women who are just not accountable and responsible to themselves. You didn't make the most of yourself. You didn't get with a man. You didn't make yourself feminine. You didn't make yourself playful. You didn't make yourself a joy to be around. That's why you have a bad relationship to your father. That's why you have a bad relationship to every boyfriend you ever had. And that's why you're this insufferable, multiracial whore running around, and then you're so damaged and you've internalized every bad decision you've ever made as trauma. So then you decide to now project an outlash against every younger girl, younger woman who eventually is entering the sexual marketplace and is going to be a candidate for men. And you're not. And you blew it. And it's your fault that you did this to yourself. No one else is to blame for your decisions. You know, because you as a woman, you had everything up front. And all you had to do was not screw it up. And all you had to do was not allow hubris to get in the way of your decision making. And how you decide to treat your body, right? But instead, you find with a lot of these women, they have a bunch of hubris. You find that they allow this overinflated pride over themselves that has no basis. They allow it to destroy themselves. And once they've destroyed themselves, now we're seeing what that looks like, right? And that's the real conversation being had with this game, that no one honestly is talking about this. And it's the fact that these women, they're accountable for nothing to nobody. And what they're seething about, truly, is the fact that the upcoming generation of young women are better than these women are to themselves. Or, well, okay, right, unless these women turn into feminists, but these women have yet to stain themselves, unlike how these women have stained themselves. And in some sense, these younger girls, younger women who are coming up, they're the reminder of what these women threw away, of what opportunity and what chances they expended for themselves, and they didn't take it seriously. You know, maybe be feminine. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There was a big masculinity problem, toxic masculinity, telling women to smile, telling women to be playful. It makes women level themselves down, and it makes them something less to themselves for the purpose of a man. Well, and then we get in this game, right? You see just how much like a daughter figure that is playful and fun and doesn't have tattoos all over her body and all the disgusting things that feminists do to themselves and want to do to themselves. You see what that looks like. And these women seethe because they're being reminded of the fact that what they tried to force men to believe in, it didn't work. And so now they're looking at something that they threw away and they didn't take seriously. And now they're living in the reality where you messed yourself up, you gave into liberalism, and now you're a disgusting whore, number one. And then number two, you're just a disgusting, vile human being. And anyone that hasn't yet to ruin themselves, they're the reminder of what you used to be, of what you completely soiled away with. And it's really sad and it's really pathetic. And I think that's where it really gets to when you're thinking about and talking about all this stuff. It's like the real conversation to be had surrounding this game, surrounding the characters, surrounding specifically Diana and the feminist seething over her. It shows to you how sad and pathetic. It shows to you how ruinous people have been onto themselves. And it shows to you just how sad the real state is of a lot of people nowadays. And it's, you know, it's all thanks to feminism. Simply speaking, it's all thanks to feminism. It's all thanks to liberalism. It's all thanks to modernity. Modernity sold everyone a lie, and it doesn't work for anyone. It never has, all throughout history. And now we're seeing a bunch of people, they're living out the worst elements of themselves, coping with the fact, and women, they love to cope in everything they do, especially nowadays, especially feminist or liberal women. They're doing everything in their ungodly power to cope and seethe as they honestly watch someone that's doing better than themselves. And that's ultimately what's so sad and pathetic about this whole conversation, is that you're seeing how sad and distressed people are, and the fact that they never took their actions seriously. And, you know, I don't like doing this kind of thing. People love to do this kind of crap where they sit there and say that, oh, your actions and your decisions got you here every time something bad happens, right? It's just victim blaming, right? Really lazy and retarded people like to do that. But of course, there's a difference between people who are looking for an excuse to victim blame people, and then there's, of course, very easy to avoid problems. Like, don't overeat or else you're gonna get fat, and then there's a bunch of problems with that. Then you got people, they just overeat because they're too lazy. Well, they have no willpower. They're too weak within their internal constitution that they can't put away excessive food. And there's nothing to respect about that. And I certainly don't have anything to respect about that. It's disgusting that people cannot control how much they're stuffing in their mouths, right? The lack of discipline, discipline that you otherwise had every good reason to have, and you chose to not have because you wanted to give into just blatant sin instead. That is truly what is worthy of shaming. And that is, of course, what is heavily different from victim blaming, victim shaming, is when people, they had every reason and every ability to negate of themselves their own unbecoming. I mean, they were told many times over, and if you just think about these things yourself, it's very clear and easy to know and understand what is just common sense, what is just sensible and reasonable. Like, you know, maybe don't put a bunch of tattoos on your body. Maybe that just kind of makes you're staining yourself, and you're just making your body, your skin, look messy. It's not very presentable. And especially as a woman, it's not presentable. And no man has ever said that he wanted that. So it's like, okay, you know, maybe at some point you do want to get with a guy and you want to have a guy that you're with long term. I don't know. Men are very clear that they don't like women who have tattoos. So maybe as a guy, you're not to be blamed for not wanting to get with those women. And maybe as a woman, maybe you should have listened to the men who told you they don't like tattoos, you know? And it's just simple little things like that. There are things that people can absolutely help, and they choose to do nothing about, right? It's the carelessness, and it's the lack of vigilance. It's a lack of vigilance around carelessness. These people deserve everything that they've gotten, you know? It's like you were the making of your own designs. You were the making of your own downfalls. You wanted to be your own downfall because you thought you were some kind of really brave and stunning rebel, just being deconstructive of everything that's been normal from generation to generation. And so because these deconstructionists, they weren't successful, their lives are a freaking wreck. You know, if you even know 1% of them, you just know how freaking ruinous liberals are onto their own lives and their reality. They're terrible parents, they're terrible spouses, terrible boyfriends, girlfriends, queers. They're just so insufferable, these people. I don't know how anyone can freaking suffer them, but that's who they've chosen to be, and that is what this game is highlighting. You know, this is a nothing game, and people were forcing out a conversation because these people are the conversation. These people are the problem for modernity, for really any first world nation that exists. These people are ruinous upon themselves, and anyone that they can drag with themselves, they're ruinous equally upon those others. Especially children. If you know anything about these leftists and these liberals, they do everything in their power to ruin the children that are in or surrounding their lives. And I've thought about it many times. It's like, man, if you did not grow up with retarded liberal parents, you do in some way have to count yourself so blessed and lucky, because liberals are so disgusting and horrific. And imagine you have these freaking seething, unbearable, insufferable women and you know, the men who are fags. Imagine you have to suffer these people as a child. Imagine that. And that is downright horrendous. I could not even imagine that. Having to suffer with these people as your freaking parent or guardian. That's where it just gets really bad. And I feel for those kids, you know, that've had to put up with that nonsense. And ultimately, that is what this game reminds us of. That is what this game's about. It's about these insufferable people. And they are the ones at fault for themselves. And they're the types of people, like, who in their right mind would want to, in any way, tolerate you? And that's what the whole conversation's about. These people are so insufferable. It would only be wise for anyone to avoid them. And I feel for any child that's had to put up with them, suffer living around them or growing up with them. Jeez Louise, man. You can only imagine how bad it is. But anyways, that's the thing that we get with these types of games, though. You realize that the conversation is no longer the products, but rather it's how our society, our culture, and our people, how far they're all degenerating.